so good to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out for the show today. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. I'm excited for it.
So let's get into it. And before we get into your work, I want to know this. 6 years ago, this pandemic was changing our lives, changing the pace of everything. How did you get through that coronavirus era? And how has it influenced the way that you work and live today?
Oh, that's a great question. The COVID-19 pandemic was an inflection point, certainly for someone like me. So during COVID-19, I was in graduate school, finishing up my PhD. And before we went into lockdown, I spent a lot of time at the office. You got to spend a lot of time with colleagues. It was very sort of like a collegial experience being inside the academic institution. You spend a lot of time hanging around students and whatnot, which was just a lot of fun and really great environments. And as soon as COVID-19 hit, that is when I was sort of in my dissertation phase, where I transitioned from classes to working full time on doing research. And that was an important time because it what it did is it was the best experience for me, and it was a worst experience in that we were all totally isolated, which means that it gave me a lot of time to focus on research, to focus on getting my skills up, to focus on learning more about statistics, about data science, and learning more about myself in terms of, the pressure of everything, and in terms of, my social experience. So during that time, I spent a lot of time working. That's mainly how I got through it. But I learned many different skills along the way, like learned how to play the piano, learned how to play the guitar. I I I had three other roommates, and I learned to bartend because I would figure there was no better time than that time, right? Um, Learned how to cook. Before then I didn't know how to cook at all, and so it was an amazing time in that I learned so many new skills. I was able to push my research forward, but it was a challenge in that all the social experiences that we were having that we got to enjoy got sort of taken away. So, if not for that time period, I don't think I would be where I am today in terms of like my professional development, in terms of my career development, in terms of the habits that I set myself up for in terms of always wanting to learn, always wanting to grow. But it did come at a cost, and that cost was sort of my ability to go out and socialize with people in the same way that I did before.
So let's get into what you're doing with generative AI and beyond. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day. You're in a school, and one of the kids is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do
Mhm.
you answer them?
Uh, I work with large language models or AI to help teach them how to analyze data on their own.
Okay. So explain generative AI. I mean, for a
Perfect.
lot of people out there, they just see AI, but then you hear generative. How do you make that distinction?
Yes. When people say AI is a large field. It encompasses things such as machine learning, neural networks, uh, learning behaviors, and large language models. But when people typically say AI, what they're actually referring to is large language models, which is a subset of AI. And large language models are models that have been trained on a bunch of data so that they can learn how to speak and communicate like humans do, in that they are very good, exceptionally good at predicting the next word. So when I tell you Mary had a little what, and the large language model knows to say lamb.
Yeah.
And so at its core, large language models are next word predictors.
So let me ask you this. When you were 12 years old and you were in that classroom, what did you want to be when you grew up? What was your dream gig?
Oh man, when I was 12 years old, I was still wanted to be the quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers.
I love it. So let me ask you this. What were the building blocks of technology? What were the building blocks of your childhood that led you to get into the cutting edge technology world that we're in right now? How did that happen?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think my life has been transformative in many ways. In that one thing that I've been really exceptional at is taking up opportunities and looking toward the horizon on what's coming. So after I wanted to be the San Francisco 49ers quarterback, I wanted to go to law school, and then I met a mentor who taught me the value of doing research, and I fell in love with politics and political science, and that led me to go to graduate school to get my PhD, where I focused a lot of my time on building my skills in data science and learning statistics. And that got me a job at Moody's, where I met another mentor and worked on a lot of generative AI. And now I'm sort of trying to position myself as someone who's going to be on the cutting edge of things, who's sees a vision for the future that maybe other people don't see, and try to push things forward as if I'm on the tip of the spear to create new innovations. And I think I've always been somebody who's always been interested in working toward learning new things and exciting things. And that mindset, I think, has set me up to be in the position where I'm in today.
So, who's been your inspiration? Who's been kind of your hero or inspirational force to allow you to find your place and your footing as an entrepreneur?
As an entrepreneur, who is in my hero? I've had many heroes, I'll and they've been across society, across dimension. My dad, he's certainly one of my heroes. Uh, he came to this country as a refugee, and within 8 years, he was an entrepreneur, and he had earned $1 million. He came from nothing to making it in this country. And his journey through entrepreneurship has certainly not been one of linear success. It's had ups and downs associated with it, but he really sort of taught me the value of hard work, of persistence, uh, of having a vision and executing on it. And if you work hard and you do the right things, things can work out. And I think that's certainly been the guiding principle through at least through my entrepreneurial journey throughout life.
So, if you had the chance to meet a tech giant, whether they are alive today or they're a ghost, somebody that's been an innovator, that's not only been a part of the AI world, but in technology in general, who would you love to meet and talk to?
In terms of technology, who would I like to meet? I guess, meeting with Sam Altman or the CEO of Anthropic, you know, meeting those guys, I think would be really interesting for me in order to see what their vision is for AI. I mean, they talk a lot about it in public, so it's pretty easy to access. But, privately, hey, what are they thinking? How are they thinking about AI? How are they thinking about the future of technology? How are they thinking about the next 30 years? In their mind, what's their vision for what the world might look like? And their vision, I would imagine, considering their influence, will be extremely accurate in terms of what we can expect over the next 30 years.
So when I talk to AI engineers and masterminds that are doing this every day, I get the sense that this technology is moving blindingly fast and people don't realize how fast. So you have Moore's law. Technology duplicates itself. Have we just absolutely obliterated that in terms of AI?
Yeah, I was just thinking about this yesterday. Let me take you back to the 1870s, right? In the 1870s to the 1900s, we discovered and built the the steamship. We discovered and built steam railroads. The safety bicycle, the bicycle with two wheels with a chain on it, was invented. And the Model T was about to come into fruition, right? One of the most famous individuals at the time said, the innovations that we've experienced in the 19th century will far outpace the innovations that we'll experience in the next or the 20th century. 60 years later, we were walking on the moon. Okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's that people don't think in terms of people think in terms of linearity.
yeah.
They think that innovation occurs stepwise, one step at a time. That's not how things work. Innovation happens on an exponential curve where what we see today will be unrecognizable to future generations 30, 60, and 90 years from now. The lifestyle that they will be living, the technology that we will have then, will be completely unrecognizable to those in the 30 to 60 years from now. And so it's that we have difficulties sort of comprehending or understanding how change happens because we think in linear terms. Change happens in an exponential term. And that's why what we're seeing now is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of what we can expect from AI. Just like how we went from Model Ts to walking on the moon in 60 years, we're going to go from large language models to something that we can't even fathom 60 to 30 years from now.
That's what I find fascinating about being in this Gen X realm is that I remember rotary dial phones. But if you
Mhm.
showed kids that right now, they wouldn't understand. And I've even gotten to a point because I have a jazz radio show and I get a lot of CDs in the mail. I'll give them out to kids at Halloween and they look at it like, what is this? And
Yes.
it's like, it's a compact disc. They have no
Yeah.
idea. So it's weird to think how fast and crazy it is. So another thing about being a part of this Gen X thing is that I remember reading kind of those somewhat, doomsday scenarios of Arthur C. Clarke with 2001 and other novels like that. So there's always that question, that dystopian idea of what's AI going to become? Is it going to potentially become something that we become slaves to? From your perspective, how much control do you think we're going to continue to have over AI? Do you think we'll ever lose that grip on it?
Um, yeah. I tend to be an optimist,
Yeah.
and so I'll say that policy makers will put in regulations to create productive, safe, accountable AI, and that people will use AI for positive things and not negative things, and that we won't never have a Terminator type of situation. But I'll refer us back to the famous quote from Benjamin Franklin in talking about democracy. It's it yeah, democracy, if you can keep it, right? In terms of what he's saying is that it's up to us, it's up to the individual to be able to create the future that you want to see. And so just like any other technology that exists out there, um, you can use gunpowder for fireworks or you can use them for weapons. You can use nuclear fission for creating energy or for atomic bombs, right? It's going to be how we want the technology to exist moving forward. And if we have more good people than the negative people out there, then I think we'll see extremely positive outcomes to it. But it's going to be up to us.
It's interesting because somebody had explained at one time AI is kind of like an algorithm. It really follows human beings and what we're doing, and it lends into what you're saying. I believe on a daily basis on this planet, there are more things that happen that are positive and that are good. And AI being a reflection of what humanity does every day, overwhelmingly is going to be a wellspring of things that are going to be
Mhm.
positive. From just going to get a cup of coffee to launching another rocket into space to saving an animal that's wounded. There's all of those things that happen, and AI has its way of like, just like even the devices in our house that are listening to human
Mhm.
behavior, all of it tends to be more positive, I would think, and it feeds into what you're saying.
I think it's like if 99% of the technology is used for positive, people won't hear about it, right? But if that 1%
Uh-huh.
is used for negative, those things will get amplified. And then the press and then social media and whatnot. But then we tend to forget, hey, there's still 99% good. And we have to find some way to regulate and hold accountable those people who use it for that 1% bad.
Yeah, for sure. So what is it that motivates you every day to wake up to do this work? When the alarm clock goes off, you're doing this work, you're innovating, but you also have your own soul. What is that energy every day for you?
Oh, it's definitely one of extreme excitement of countless ideas of unlimited potential. I mean, every day I have more ideas than I can execute on. And I think my vision for the future, especially in the work in the industry or the sector that I'm working in, is so vivid that I feel like sometimes you can even reach out and touch it. And I'm so excited about what this technology can do and how it's going to be so transformative to push things forward. I wake up with such excitement and enthusiasm. So I come from a research background. And so I've seen the value of doing research in social sciences and of pushing our understanding of humanity forward. And it's my company's goal to be able to honor to live with the passion that those individuals do in creating this technology for them. I always say that, hey, our company is going to be for those people who push the world forward. Those people who spend like during COVID, like me, who are in their apartment, who are excited to do research to better understand how people think, how they behave, how they act. Let's try and work for them to make their research more impactful for our lives. And so it's that excitement for the vision of the future and that excitement and vision for the people that we want to help that really gets me fired up in the morning.
So let's say we get off this call and a time machine pulls up in front of your house. You can go anywhere in the future to a said year, or you could go in the past and see one event in human history. It would be a two-way thing. Where would you go in the future, and what would you love to see in the past?
Oh man, that's good. I think I'd probably so in the future, probably take me 30 years from now,
Yeah.
just so I can see how things sort of play out. Where did we take this technology? Where did we innovate? Who were the winners? And how did we transform society? Going back, I think there's many more, I'd love to go back to see, the signing of the Declaration of Independence as someone who's loves politics and political science. That was probably one of the most transformative moments. Probably, also seeing the signing of the or the ratification of the Constitution.
Yeah.
One of the first modern contemporary democracies coming to bear in our country in the United States. Would love to go back to see the civil rights movement and be a part of that. Another transformative time period in American history. And and yeah, those two things I think I would be extremely excited to be at.
So another fantastical question. You have a dream tonight and you run into the 18-year-old version of you and you walk up and you have a big book in your hands and it's your life so far and you hand it over and say, "This is what's happened so far." Would that young version of you believe the story?
At 18, there I think so. I think he would believe the story. I don't think he would have believed that it played out in the way that he thought it was going to play out.
Yeah.
Um, but I think he would be pretty impressed. 18-year-old Sharif was very ambitious. He was very much a go-getter. He was extremely excited about his potential and the potential in the future. So I think he would be extremely surprised about how things turned out. But I think he would be very excited about it.
So of everything that you've done in your life up to this point, accomplished and evolved to, what are you the proudest of?
Uh, I think the most thing that I'm most proud of is, of all this, there's a lot of accolades and whatnot, but I think it's just being a good person, being a good friend, being a good son, being there for people when they needed me, and for always being somebody who's always willing to help out, whether it was at a significant cost to themselves, if it was even if it was a significant cost to myself, who was always somebody who was always willing to be a good friend, be a good son, and to help out whenever called for.
So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone you work with, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think if I could characterize myself, um, I would say ambitious, extremely overly hardworking. Maybe that's my girlfriend's characterization of me, but I'll take that. And someone who's extremely enthusiastic about the future.
So you had mentioned wanting to be a quarterback up front. What's the best game that you've ever witnessed in your life? The best sporting event you've ever been at?
The best game that I witnessed, let me think. It would probably be the Brady Super Bowl where he came back from, I think he was down 27-7,
Atlanta,
21.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
in Atlanta. Oh my gosh.
They
It
hate
gets
him
there.
down there.
Oh, I bet they do. Oh my gosh. I think it was like at halftime or like the third quarter. Like he scored all those points in the fourth quarter or something. Where it was like, man, everybody's like, is this gonna be the end of Brady? Is this gonna be the end of the dynasty?
Yeah.
Are they, what's gonna happen? And then he comes back and scores and they end up winning the game. It's just like, it once again teaches you a lesson that, the greats out there. never thinks that they're gonna lose. It's
No.
like they always have that belief that, hey, we're gonna find a way. Hey, we just got to keep doing what we're doing. What happened in the past, like we don't think about that. We focus on how do we score those next points in the future. And I think that's just sort of a great life lesson, in terms of, there's not many quarterbacks out there who can overcome that kind of deficit in
Yeah.
that kind of situation.
Uh-huh.
And when probability is totally against you, but it just goes back to, hey, having that mindset that we can't, that what's in the past is in the past, but we just have to figure out how do we get that next yard? How do we get that next touchdown?
I remember there was a quote that Tom Brady put out at one point, and he said someone was asking him what the key to his mentality was. And he said, every season, I think that my final game is going to be, or my final day in the office is going to be a day after the Super Bowl is over.
Yes.
So it's the first day of training, and then
Yeah.
it's that day. So he bills it as a marathon. He was like, it's just you're going to lose, you're going to have moments. Because I remember the Chiefs played them in 2014 before Mahomes and all of this dynasty thing. And we beat them. And it was a really unseasonably warm, like late September day. And the announcers were annihilating Brady. Is this it? Oh my God. And he ended up beating us in the AFC title game later that year or two. Like
Yep.
anytime you start saying that about a guy like that, he's like, okay, all right, that's fine.
Absolutely. And that's the stuff, I mean, if you're talking about somebody, I mean, that's the stuff that drives him. I mean,
Yeah,
pick 199 to New England as a backup, gets in there for Drew Bledsoe and just like runs train on the rest of the league for the next 20 years. I mean, his entire motivation was, hey, I was somebody who was picked second on the schoolyard. I got a chip on my shoulder, and I'm going to continuously show people what I'm capable of, how I'm going to continue to work hard. He wasn't the fastest. He didn't have the strongest throwing arm, but he had the strongest work ethic, which made the difference for somebody like him.
absolutely. So if anybody wants to delve further into your world, they want to figure out more, they need more, where do they go? Where's the best place to go?
Yeah, so you can go onto LinkedIn to find and feel free to add me, Sharif Amlani. And our newest product is called Survey Fluency. It exists to help you analyze data. And so you can check that out at surveyfluency.com.
Sharif, this has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your enthusiasm. Have a great 2026. I appreciate it.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Joe. Thanks for having me on. This was a phenomenal experience, and I really
Thank you.
appreciate you.
Absolutely. It's been wonderful.